Welcome to Home Buyer Hotspot. Today we're going to be discussing how to buy an investment property. I'm Jennifer Fanning with Cross Country Mortgage, and I am interviewing and talking to one of my friends and experts in investment property buying, Tamala Stobbs. Tamala, tell us about yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tamala Stobbs with Connect Homeowners, and that is my boutique real estate company. It is a pleasure to be here with you, and I can't wait to talk about investment and how to buy investment. Buying investment is completely different than being a first-time home buyer or maybe a veterans or FHA, any of the other types that you might have done over time. Maybe you've owned another property. So it's a pleasure to be here with you, Jennifer. Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. I'm so excited. We haven't seen each other in person in a little while, so this is kind of great. All right. So if you've ever thought about buying an investment property, but you just don't know where to start, maybe you were thinking that you would flip homes or possibly purchase that Airbnb. So today's episode is going to guide you through how to purchase an investment property, the pitfalls, the rewards. So there's great rewards in investment properties, such as, building wealth, cash flow. There's also some big pitfalls, and I've seen people make some really big mistakes in owning investment properties. And a lot of that comes from they didn't do their due diligence up front, or they were just kind of winging it with an agent that knew nothing about how to calculate numbers, or a mortgage person who just wanted a deal, was like, yeah, go team, you can do this. So if you want to get more content like this, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. And here we go. All right, Tamala. So from a realtor's perspective, what is the very first thing that someone should do? Like when they call you and say, hey, Tamala, I'm looking to build a portfolio of investment properties. What is the first thing that you tell them to do?
Well, the first thing that we do, it's kind of a combined effort, but the first thing that they need to do is figure out how they're going to either finance the property, pay cash for the property, look for owner financing. How are you going to pay for the property that you're purchasing? That's the number one question. And then after that would be a needs and wants assessment. They kind of go hand in hand in a sense because as part of their needs and wants, they may need a certain type of financing, which may not qualify them for purchasing certain types of properties. So maybe a condo, maybe they need 20% down, 30% down, hard money lending. What is it that they need to do? So they need to make their first call. Typically, they're going to need to make their first call to the lender, which I know you're very familiar with.
I would 100% agree that that is the first phone call, because you don't want to waste your time looking up investment properties and running all over the place looking at properties if the person really doesn't qualify, doesn't have the financial means to purchase, correct?
Correct. No,
Because you don't get paid hourly, do you?
no, no, and that is a big thing this year. This year, it will go into that, I'm sure, in a bit, but we're down 2 million sales this year. So that impacts a lot of people, not only the real estate industry, but ancillary businesses. So we are not paid hourly. We are paid once someone closes on a property. So, and not to mention, as much as, we would love to do this business for free if we could, we still have to pay our bills. And the grocery store doesn't accept a thank you when I walk through and need to buy bananas. So,
Definitely don't. So we definitely want to make sure that people are qualified and educated on this type of purchasing, of an investment property. So what do you think? So most people who are looking to buy investment properties already own a primary residence. Matter of fact, several of the loan types that I have for investment properties, you can't buy an investment property unless you already own an primary residence. So what would you say is the number one thing that's the difference between purchasing a primary residence and then purchasing an investment property? What's the brain shift that people need to have when they're looking to purchase investment properties?
it's not about what you want. It's not about what you like. It's not about the color of the walls that you're looking at. It's about the people that you want to appeal to and the reason why you're buying the investment property. So you
That's right.
might love to have a two-story, and you might like to have all the bedrooms on the upper floor. But if you're going to rent that out, you may need a primary bedroom down on the first floor. So a lot of people go into investment and they want to buy what they want to buy and what they like. And that can play a part, but you never want to go into an investment and get emotionally attached to a property that you're buying and buy it for your emotional reasons. It needs to be a logical, rational, calculated decision.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from you is this is not about emotions, which a lot of primary residents, that's 100% the driving factor on purchasing a primary residence. A lot of times is all about the emotions, all about the feelings. But investment properties should just be about the numbers, correct?
Absolutely. It's
Yeah,
a
and what
logical, rational decision. So you calculate the numbers and you
yeah.
come up with what it is. If you're going to rent it long term, what are your bottom line? What's your bottom line numbers? If you're going to rehab it and flip it, how much is it going to cost to rehab? What type of property are you looking at? When you look at the area, and you need to know the numbers of how many people are buying in that area and what's the normal price for it to sell. There's a lot of AI out there that could calculate it for you, but there's never going to be anything that's better than the person sitting in a home in that area selling real estate daily with multiple people that's able to tell you, okay, this might be a good idea or no, this might not. That's the professionalism in the business, is that guy.
I would 100% agree because realtors know their areas. They know what people are doing in those areas. They know the rules and regulations around those areas. I've had people come to me wanting to buy Airbnbs. And the first thing that I tell them once I pre approve them is you need to find out what the local laws are around Airbnbs because there's many municipalities that have banned them, that you can only have an Airbnb property if you're grandfathered in. So those are some big considerations when you're looking to purchase that type of property. A lot of people just see, oh, I'm on Airbnb and this property is renting for $300 a night. Well, if I could get it, $300 a night, how much money could I make, and the wheels start turning? But then they don't look at what the laws are, and they could potentially own a property that they can't Airbnb.
Or the laws might be changing. So there's
Mhm.
a lot of people that bought Airbnbs in recent times, just like you're saying, and now all of a sudden they can't rent it out and they've had to turn it into an annual rental. And the next question is, well, you turn it into an annual rental, what do you do with the furniture? And now you turn it into an annual rental and you're not getting $300 a day. Now can you cover your costs? Or what if you're an association that previously allowed Airbnbs, but now they've changed their rules to every 3 months, 6 months you can rent the property, or you can only rent it twice a year. Your investment just changed drastically. So it's important to know what's coming ahead if you can find out.
Yes, I 100% agree. And that's why people need to work with a realtor who is able to know the area really, really well and work with investors and have that investor mindset, not just the mindset of, yeah, I can find you a house because anybody can find you a house. You can find yourself a house, but you need the expertise behind you in all of these different scenarios of someone who's thinking of things that you yourself will not think about because you're just thinking about the number and how much you think you can make. So you need somebody in your camp that's thinking about all
Absolutely.
these other things, right?
A-
So
ab-
how would you help your clients identify a good deal? So like we talked about, you can't bring your emotions, your own personal stuff into this. So how do you help clients identify what a good deal really is?
So that's the needs and wants assessment to start with.
Okay.
What are they looking for? Because it's my ultimate job, quote unquote job, to look
Yes.
for exactly what the investor wants. Some investors want to flip the property, so they want to buy it today. With FHA, I believe you still, and you can tell them this for sure, but I think you still have to have it seasoned for at least 3 months. So some investors, is that true? 6 months? Okay.
6 months. And I'm just remembering off the top of my head, it's been a while since I've had an FHA loan on a flip property. I believe it's 6 months. It might even be longer.
So the property has to season. So if you're if you're going to flip a property, or let's say you're going to buy a property, you're going to rent it as an Airbnb for 3 months, and then you're going to flip it. Well, you need to understand who the buyer on the other side is going to be. So there are a lot of factors, and we don't have to, but it's a good idea to sit down and have that discussion, or do a discussion on Zoom, or there's a lot of ways, or on a phone call. And then we go through, what are your needs? What kind of numbers do you want? Are you looking for a 20% return? If you're not doing a flip, okay, that brings on a different factor. Okay, now you're going to rent it annually. Well, if you're going to rent it annually, do you want a pool? Do you not want a swimming pool? Because a pool adds on to your insurance. And if you have someone who has an accident in the swimming pool, or if you rent it out to someone and they have a visitor that comes over for a pool party and has an accident in the pool, you very well could bankrupt yourself by owning that one investment property. So what is it you're looking?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There,
that's good advice.
so yeah, exactly, right? I mean, how many properties have we looked at over the years, and someone says, "Oh, this is so pretty. I want to buy this because I'm going to attract all the people to buy Airbnb." Well, yeah, you're right. The pool's going to attract people, and it's really cool that you have all these separate bedrooms. You've done a great job. Did you consider how much your insurance is?
Well, and
Do you
that eats into your ultimate cash flow, right? Like you were talking about in the beginning, that you need to really know the numbers of how much is your mortgage payment, but then also if you're not paying cash, but then also how much is that insurance, adequate insurance? What's that going to cost for this property? And that's why Tamala and I both work with several different insurance agents that would make sure that your property was adequately insured. And that insurance agent is thinking of all the pitfalls for you, just like Tamala did right now. So, Tamala, another question is, how important is location? In fact, I have an investor right now that's purchasing in an area that I would say is a very desirable location, but she started out in a less desirable area because it was cheaper. So, what's your take on location for an investment property?
So location there's been a cliche statement for years, location, location, location when it comes to real estate. And although that just sounds so simple and so easy just to be able to say that, it's a reality. The odds of you picking up the house and moving the house to a different location are pretty slim. It happens, but it's not normal. And you can figure out the cost involved. You buy a beautiful home in a downtown area that's historic, and you're like, this is lovely. Let me move it. Well, how much is that going to cost you? So, uh, location is extremely important. Most people are concerned about safety. There is probably a 90% concern when you're looking at property. So if you're going to sell this property sometime in the future, it's important to know what development might be going on around you. That's what's the pending development. Um, and yeah, it sounds great. It sounds fabulous. Let me buy this property for $50,000 less because it's in an area that's the number for that area. But if it's not safe and if it's not accessible for whatever reason, are there highways near the property that you can get on and off? Is it near an airport? If you're going to buy an Airbnb, are you looking for out of town buyers, or out of town renters? Or are you looking for local? Who are you appealing to? Who do you want this property? Who's occupying this property? So there's some training over the years about, think about who your avatar is. Who's the person that you're specifically going to have in this property, and then work all that backwards. Who's that person? What's the price that they're going to pay? And then run your numbers and run your story based on that. Anyone who's looking at investment, my typical conversation is a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 2 car garage. And typically in Florida, you can go either way, but a CBS, because that prevents some of the immediate concerns like termites and wood rot and the different things. So typically a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 2 car garage. But where is that located? That could be, if that's in the middle of the Ocala National Forest, it's going to rent differently than if it's over on the coast and it's right by the ocean.
Correct.
So
100%. So location, I would say, is very, very important. Very important. So how do you see the investment property market trending right now? Is there opportunities for people who want to purchase investment properties? Like,
I
what
want
do
to
you think?
say right off, Jennifer, these are great questions, by the way. You picked out some
Thank
really
you.
great questions
Thank
today.
you.
I hope everyone is really becoming educated through this and knows the expertise behind it, and they're asking themselves a few more questions.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
ask me that one more time. I just wanted to interrupt for a moment and share
No,
that.
no, that's fine. That's fine. So, how do you see the
Mark.
investment property market trending right now? So, is there room for investors in this current market to buy houses and make the numbers work?
So if we really look at the numbers and you don't listen so much to the media, the
Mhm.
media and what they share with the public is not always what we actually see as we're working with properties on the daily basis. So it's important to have a professional that actually stays educated, whether it's you in the mortgage industry, whether it's me in the real estate industry, whether it's the insurance professionals. But it's really important to have a professional that's in the industry because they typically understand what's happening in the back end or what might be forecast for the future. So, having said that, we're in what we would consider one of the troughs, the bottom of the market, meaning that prices have come down. They're more than likely going to start going up. Uh, how far are we into that trend? We can't predict exactly. We don't have a crystal ball, but
I
we do
wish
have.
we'd be rich.
I actually do have the crystal ball over there. I wish I had it right now because I would hold up the crystal ball. But funny. So, but even having that crystal ball, it's still, I mean, 23 years in the business, still there are factors, but traditionally and based on the numbers and based on what's happening in the market, we are at a low and it is an excellent time for investors to buy. This might be one of the best times that they're going to experience in the next 7 coming years because our typical cycles are between 7 and 10 years. So we've been trending down for 3 years. If you look from October of last year to this year, oh my gosh, like the numbers have the prices have consistently gone down. Now, if you couple that and you're getting a mortgage and if the interest rates are coming in a little bit lower, you're kind of at the perfect moment to buy. And if you're paying cash, you are in a phenomenal position to negotiate.
Yes, yes, then a
No matter
great
what, you're in a great position to negotiate. Those
I would.
ugly houses that nobody wants to deal with,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, you could buy them by the hundreds right now because
Correct.
the primary buyer's not buying the ugly house. They're not buying the one that needs the work. And if you have your group of people, and if you don't, your trades, typically we have a suggested list. You run your trades through there, fix it up, and now in the next couple of years, you'll be reaping the benefits of what the market's doing right now. This is definitely.
I 100% agree. And I found it so interesting. Remember a few years ago, like 3 years ago, when we were like at that height, the peak of the market, and there were so many investors coming in paying cash for houses. And I remember thinking to myself, why? Why would you, as an investor, at the very peak of the market, want to own these houses? It didn't make sense to me, and I didn't understand why they were doing what they were doing. And now a lot of these investors are unloading those properties because they can't rent the properties for as much as they originally thought they could. And so it's been a very interesting. I've seen all kinds of investment properties hit the market where I'm at in Florida, just because the rents in northern Florida, where I'm at, have gone down. And so they no longer can make the money. I don't even know if they'll get all the money out of the property that they put into it originally because they bought at the peak of the market and were competing against all kinds of buyers buying primary residences.
They bought 3 years ago. Right now in this area, in most areas of Florida, they're already upside down. They're not going to make a profit if they sell it right now. And you're exactly right. And you touched on something very important. The rents have gone down, and there's a larger number of properties for rent. So when you have competition, that goes back to our location conversation. That goes back to our numbers conversation. Can you carry the property for 3 months if it doesn't rent?
Well, and that's something that I look at as a mortgage lender that we build into the numbers where we want to make sure that you have reserves. You have no idea how many times I've had people that are past clients that own their primary home call me afterwards and say, "Hey, Jennifer, we really want to buy a property that we can Airbnb or that we can rent on a long-term basis." And then I start talking about cash flow because I know these people's finances. I just financed a loan for them a year or so ago. And I'm asking questions like, how much money do you have in the bank? And in their minds, they're thinking of primary home lending, that they only need that 5% down and that they don't typically need a bunch of reserves, savings to back it up because you just don't when you're buying a primary house. But when you are purchasing an investment property, it's all about the numbers, and we want you to have minimum of 15% down into that property. And we want to see that you've got a year's worth of reserves, typically. Not all the time, not for every loan type, but typically a year's worth of reserves. And the reserves are an entire year's worth of mortgage payment, total payment, insurance, principal and interest, your taxes, HOA, whole enchilada. They want to see that you've got that saved somewhere because we know that typically you're going to have times when that home is going to be vacant.
That is 100% true, and that is a great help for people. And
Yeah.
the other part of it is, all right, what if you have to replace a roof, or we are in an area that weather affects us, that it impacts us. So
In a big
what do
way.
you do? Yeah, what if we do have a storm that comes through, and what if your property can't be lived in for 6 months?
Or
Um,
longer. Mhm.
yeah, or yes, I mean, look at some of the places on the west coast of Florida. They're still just getting back to, and it's been 2 years. So it's important to know, and that goes to location too. Do you buy close on the water? Do you buy farther back? I think all of these come together, and you're exactly right. Do you have the reserves? Do you have the ability to repair the property? You know, the numbers, it's only about the numbers when you buy an investment property. Not only, I mean, that's your
And the great thing is there's so many different ways to finance these properties. If you've got reserves, if you've got some cash to put down, cash for closing, there's some very creative ways of financing these properties. One way is that we don't even consider your income. We do what's called a debt services loan, where we look at the rentability of that property. And if it can rent for an equal amount or more than what the total mortgage payment is, that's the income in order to qualify for that loan. We can even go down as far as 0.75%, where the mortgage payment is 1/4% higher than what rent could really be. Typically don't recommend that to people, but we can go down that low, if you really want that as a rental property. So there's a bunch of different ways where you can just qualify for that property if you've got the cash to do it off of the income of the property. I've also seen people, and you've probably seen this, where people purchase a primary home and live in it for a few years and then turn it into a rental property. What are your thoughts on that? Have you seen anybody successfully do that? Like how I hear people saying that that's their plan. But have you seen people actually be successful in doing that?
I personally have been successful multiple times in doing that,
Oh,
actually.
okay, good. That's good to know.
So, yeah. So I mean, we
Okay.
made a really great investment. Now, the other side of that is, though, they need to be on a certain type of mortgage. Am I correct? You could speak to that.
Well, they need to live in the home for 2 years is as
Okay.
their primary home, and then you can convert it into a rental. And you can do it with FHA, but you cannot hold two FHA loans at the same time in the same area. So I've had someone do it once where they owned a house down in West Palm Beach. They wanted to buy up in Port St. Lucie or somewhere further north than that. And so they had to be 100 miles away from the original FHA loan. And then we were able to give them another FHA loan. They'd been in the house for like 10 years. Um, he got transferred for his job, wanted to rent his current home out to his adult son and purchase something new. And so that's what he did. He had tons of equity. You know, we just pulled some of the equity out of his current home to put towards the new home. And that I'm aware of that has worked out quite well for him.
Well, and that's a great example for people to know. You've been through this, you've experienced it, and I think that speaks to some of the things that you do. You put the time and effort in and to look at what the whole scenario is and then give feedback so that people have guidance because the lender and the realtor need to work together closely.
100%.
What
100% we do.
And what about the taxes going up? You know, if you buy a property and then all of a sudden the taxes fluctuate and you went from $1,300 in taxes to $7,800 in taxes, that's a big jump. So
That is
that's
a big
important.
jump. And that's why I always go out to the property tax appraiser's website and do their what if scenario. Most property appraiser websites in the state of Florida will do a what if scenario. And so then we plug in that new number of what you're purchasing the home for. Say it's not going to be homesteaded because it won't be. This is not your primary residence. This is an investment property. And it will spit out a pretty accurate amount of where the taxes are going to go with that property. And that's another thing that like you have to work with people who understand what really happens in the real estate industry after you close the loan. There's lots of people who will just give you a loan. Lots of people. There's these people online and their logo is a rocket and they're happy to give you a loan. but
Yes.
there to troubleshoot and look at all of these different pitfalls, things that could happen. They're just there to give you the loan.
And that there's twofold in there, and I want to go back to that other question in just a moment again. Let me circle back to that one, but you're right about the online companies. They're really, most of them are just marketing companies. People think that just because they have a similar name to what a real estate company is called, that they're a real estate company and they're not, they're a marketing company. And that's all that they do is they market, they get your information, they sell your lead to the real estate agent. That's how they make money. And then some of them actually think that they're going to, do away with the human contact, which that'll be an interesting experience to see if that happens. But that's one. I want to circle back to the question you asked about people being able to turn it into an investment.
Okay.
If one of the things that they don't typically think about is that was their primary residence and now it's not. And so now their taxes adjust because no longer is it their primary property. So that's one. So calculating for that and knowing in the state of Florida, that's what's going to happen. The other part of it is if I know from the beginning, we are buying this property, we're living in this property for 2 years, we're going to turn it into an investment property, we're going to move to another area, we're going to buy another investment property, or if we're splitting it up and one partner is having it in their names. And we did this personally. We would put one name in, one in my name, one in my ex-husband's at the time we were married, back and forth, and accumulated 12 properties total. So we had a lot of investment properties personally, not to mention the ones that I've helped people with. So I have that personal experience of we bought our townhouse. We said, okay, in 2 years, we're going to rent this. We rented it to someone for more money. We're making a profit because we bought it in the low market. Yes, right? Like we made money. I mean, right out of the gate, we're making money. And then on top of that, we bought in an area that was extremely desirable. It was a great commuting area, right? So location came into play. The interest rate that we had was phenomenal at the time. That was back, I'm going to date myself, 29 years ago, I believe it was. About 29 was up 30. And at the time, we were ecstatic to get a 6.5% interest rate. We were so happy. So
My first mortgage.
So when people tell me about 4%, I'm like, that's great, but that is just not normal, nor is it
It's
good
not normal.
because it
It's
doesn't
not
support.
reality. The federal government was dumping so much money into the bond market to help keep interest rates falsely low, which
Ah.
actually I kind of feel like hurt the market, the industry altogether. Big picture, like small picture, it was so great. So many people became homeowners that couldn't have been.
Huh?
But I think big picture, because the interest rates were so low, so many people jumped into the market. Values of homes shot up like we never have seen, I don't think, in all of history. Values go up that quickly. Um, and so now we're way here. And so things are just slowly trickling down. I do not personally think there's a crash. There are certainly some markets in Florida that have taken a little bit of a beating, but overall, I do not feel like there's a crash. I feel like there's lots of opportunity though.
There's huge opportunities right now.
Mhm.
I mean, I just showed, just as an example, and this is a primary buyer and a an investor, but boy,
Okay.
did I see some properties for the investor. I mean, properties that the buyer would not touch. But there are so many properties out there that you could go out and see 25 properties after you've combed the the computer system, and you've narrowed down thousands down to hundreds. Now you're down into the 20 mark. Maybe now you drive by 20, you narrow it down to five, you actually want to see the inside. And now we go to the negotiation. And what is the seller willing to give? And if you have a really good agent on your side, I just got $24,000 off of what was just their lowest adjusted price. Right. So, I mean, so we're getting money to redo the pool, or we're getting money to redo whatever it might be. Like, it is so important to have someone that's, working with you and working for you. Like you said, it is easy to go out and just find a property. I can go on the internet right now and find 100.
Super
Easy.
easy. Yes.
2 seconds.
Mhm.
But where we really come in with the expertise is, can we finance a property? That's your
Yep.
side. Does it
Yep.
qualify?
Correct.
Is it in a flood zone? Do you have to carry flood
Mhm.
insurance? All those factors, right? The
All the
tax.
things. Yep.
And then my side is when I walk through I'm not a home inspector, and I'm not currently a GC, but exactly. But yes, but coming from the background of construction, there's things that I look for that I'm like, well, did you think about this? Or did you think about that? Depending on what you're turning it into, do you have the walls to put the furniture on? Oh, it looks so pretty and pristine now, but what's behind that wall? Did you notice that crack that goes all the way across the ceiling? Oh, no, it's just pretty. Well, that's great, but long term, what's that going to cost you? So I don't know that I answered the question that you asked just now, but I do think it's the perfect time for them to buy. It's the lowest part of the market. Do I think that you can buy a primary residence and turn that into an investment? Yes, I do. The guidance from the very beginning becomes paramount.
Yes, yes, and they need to share that. I feel like so many people kind of have plans in the back of their heads, and they don't share that with the realtor. They don't share that with the lender. If you want to do it in a year, don't share it with me because I don't want to know.
No, no, no,
Because you need to
no.
live in the house for 2 years according to lending rules. But it's important to make a plan and to have people in your corner that have that big picture view of what you're wanting to do so that you don't make costly mistakes. So that you're not buying a house that you didn't realize the taxes, like you said, we're going to go from 1,500 to 10,000. And then what are you going to do? Because now you're losing money every month, not making money.
And that's I've seen people buy property in 55 plus communities where the HOA states that the occupant of the property needs to be 55 years old or older. And they're like, but that changes my demographic. I'm like, that's great. But what happens if you can't rent it to someone because there's 30 more of them in the building now, or 30 more of them in the community that are all for rent, and everybody is taking the run down as fast as they can on the roller coaster to get to a price that they can get their property rented, and your only pool of people are the ones over 55. That's it. And now,
So
not only is there 55,
it may not be a good investment, right? Because you're minimizing who can be in there.
and on top of that, now the little circle that it was, right? 55, what is what's the credit score that they have to qualify for to rent? Now this little
Bottom
circle,
of 700.
yeah.
Mhm.
Now your little circle's this wide. Do you know why the person over 55 is probably renting and not buying? It's probably their credit score. So I mean, there's so many factors, and I think people just glaze over it. I don't, I can always tell when the schools let out the investors because I will start to get text and phone calls, and I will get 15 or 20 of those in a day. And I'll say, you just got let out of real estate investment school, didn't you? And I get one after another. And what they don't tell them, oh, call all the real estate agents.
Yeah.
Okay, but here's the problem. That real estate agent might already have a list of investors. And if you want to get on that list, which is what I always tell the investors, because I have an investor list, they're the first ones to get the properties. Even if they're off market, they're the first ones to get the properties. But they have to have a little criteria as well. And
Well, agreed. Like you can't just have people on that list that have no cash or are not even able to purchase, have crappy credit. Because that's another part of in buying investment is, FHA goes down to a 580 credit score. You are never going to buy an investment property with a 580 credit score or even really a 620 credit score. Technically, I've got loan programs that say that it goes down to 620, but you would be murdered on the interest rate. And the numbers would never make sense. And that's why you have to work with somebody that knows about the loan types for investment properties, what you really need, and that can run the numbers for you and work with your realtor that is experienced so that we can get you in a property that will make you money. Because that's the name of the game, not just to own properties. We want to make you money. And that's what we're here to do. So Tamala, if someone wants to get a hold of you, if someone is looking to purchase a investment property or any sort of property, tell us where you're located, the areas that you serve, and then tell us how they can get a hold of you.
so I'm in St. Lucie County presently. I will say over the 23 years in the business, I do sell property all over the state simply because I've had clients for that many years. And so sometimes they'll move to a different area and they just really don't want to work with someone else, even though I could refer them. So having said that, where I focus my business is in St. Lucie County. St. Lucie County encompasses Port St. Lucie, Fort Pierce. I even go into Martin County, adding on to Stewart. Jensen Beach. You don't really notice when you cross over that line into Martin County and St. Lucie County. But Port St. Lucie, and then Port St. Lucie is in a four grid as well. There's a north, south, east, and west, and so western and eastern. A lot to know there too. Uh, you need to know about your septic and if it's been paid to connect to the sewer system. That is another charge in St. Lucie County that most people have no idea. Could cost them $6,000.
Hidden fees in St. Lucie County, I have noticed
Yeah.
recently.
Taxes.
Mhm.
So they can how to reach me. You can so that's the area that I serve. I also am on every social platform I believe that exists at this point. But you can just simply Google Tamala Stubbs as you see on the bottom of the screen. The company name is Connect Homeowners. You can reach me by phone 561-859-2757. Or you can go to my website. It's www.connecthomeowners.com. But if you Google my name, there's probably 41,000 to 50,000 hits on Google, and we're working on AI to be able to search the name as well.
Tamala, that we were able to talk about how the different pitfalls of purchasing a investment property and how it doesn't have to be intimidating as long as you have the right professionals in your corner looking out for all the things. So as an investor, you don't have to know everything, but you do have to have people in your court that know what you don't know. And I think that that is the most important part of all of this. So thank you so very much for being on the show. And I'm Jennifer Fanning with Cross Country Mortgage, in case you didn't catch that earlier. And I work specifically with investors to purchase homes. And I also work with a lot of self-employed people. Those are kind of my niche in the market because I have products for these people that other lenders don't have at interest rates My old company, never in a million years would I have had the interest rates that I have at my new company. So if you want to get a hold of me, my phone number is 561-295-2005. You can text, you can call that number. That is my office line. And so we are here to make sure that you don't get ducked when buying that investment property. Any final words, Tamala?
We could do a bonus session if you want with a positive one where somebody made an awful lot of money, but that's up to you. Other than that,
I think we should definitely record one where we talk about somebody who made lots and lots of money, because that's what investors are hoping to do, right? Is put their money in a place that's going to make them money. That's important. It's very important.
yep. So as
Yep.
long as they watch to the end, they'll be able to get that. And then the other thing I want to say is just kudos to you because you really look outside of the box. I trusted my daughter in your hands, and that means a lot to be able to trust family. So I want to say thank you for all the work that you've been able to do with me over the years, and certainly a testimonial for how amazing that you've been to work with.
I love people. I love my job. I love connecting people to the right people, getting them the right loan product. And most of all, I'm super honest with people, which sometimes I lose business because I'm super honest, but I have to sleep at night. And so so I tell things how it is. So if you're out there and you've made it all the way to the end of this video, you definitely have to like and subscribe, ring that bell, and we're very happy to produce more content like this for you to educate you and help you with your future home buying needs. Well, Tamala, it was great seeing you. And once again, my number to get a hold of me is 561-295-2005. See you soon.